Well, the Mets won't be at Digital Domain Park for long. Just 2 weeks till opening day down the Turnpike in Florida. But today, the Atlanta Braves and Jason Hayward coming out of that outstanding rookie year. Mets will see plenty of him. Fans coming in, wondering to spin the wheel. Who in the world will be the Mets' second baseman? We'll try to answer that coming up. New York Mets spring training on SNY presented by Citi as the Mets play host to the Atlanta Braves from Port St. Lucie, Florida. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the broadcast. I'm Kevin Burkhardt. Thanks for joining us. Keith Hernandez, my partner, will be along in just a moment. The Mets making some news today for this game against the Atlanta Braves. One of the big stories for this team coming in, clearly the second base competition and who would win it. Well, it's become a logjam because no one has been able to really separate their play. 5 participants in that race, now down to 4 because GM Sandy Alderson saying a couple hours before the game that Luis Castillo has been released by the team. So the Mets parting ways out with Castillo and also parting ways with $6 million that they still owe him on the contract, making that tough decision. Certainly, it was a hot topic all offseason, a hot topic all spring. Now Castillo is gone. And I asked Sandy Alderson a little while ago the factors in his decision.
Well, a number of factors from an individual standpoint, trying to evaluate where Luis is today, defensively, offensively, what he might bring to the club. Organizationally, obviously, there's some history there, and, we had to keep that in mind as well. So given everything that's happened over the spring, the other candidates that we have, where we think we're going as an organization, we thought this was in our best interest and Luis at this point. Particularly now, it gives him an opportunity to find another job.
So, Keith, you hear Sandy Alderson and the Mets make this decision, and I think there's a couple parts of this decision. First of all, clearly, and this goes for all 5 guys in the race, no one has really distinguished themselves above anybody else. I think the Mets wanted to see that from 35-year-old Luis Castillo. The other thing is, to me, I think history has to be a part of this. This is a guy that's, associated with, whether it's right or wrong, with a lot of negativity in the Mets past. So when you're Sandy Alderson, a new front office group, Terry Collins, and a new manager, how much do you think of a factor was that in kind of splitting ties with the negativity in the past?
Well, I think it had everything to do with it, and I think that Luis Castillo hurt himself when he was kind of moping and doping a little bit and had to be called into Terry Collins' office because he wasn't taking ground balls because he was DHing that day. Well, you're fighting for a job. You can't do that. It's a logjam, as you said, and this is the new sheriff in town, and he's very aggressive and enthusiastic. There's 4 guys up for the spot, and, once we heard from Terry, it's an offensive position. Now we're hearing, I want defense up the middle. So if you want defense up the middle, it's Luis Hernandez. If you want offense, it's the other guys.
So that's the thing. We take a look at the candidates now. 4 are left in this competition. Each has kind of a story. Emis has a Rule 5 pick. Justin Turner has options. Murphy is versatile. He can play a bench role. Luis Hernandez isn't even on the team. A lot to decide for the New York Mets. General Manager Sandy Alderson will be in the booth. We'll try to sort it out when we come back. First pitch coming up next. SNY is brought to you by Citi, by freescore.com, 3 credit scores, 1 place, by NYSERDA Energy Innovation Solutions, and by your Tri-State Ford dealers. Mets single game tickets for the 2011 season at Citi Field on sale right now. Tickets start at $10. Visit Mets.com or call 718-507-TIXX. Get your tickets. Operators are standing by. Take a look at who will be pitching today as DJ Carrasco gets the starts. Mets still determining whether to use him as a long man or setup guy later in games. Hasn't had a great spring. Oliver Perez going to work back-to-back days out of the pen. This will be the first time he's done that, he estimates, since he was 16 years old. So certainly a big test for Oliver Perez. And see the rest of the candidates today. R.A. Dickey working on the backfields in a minor league game. We'll keep tabs of him as well. First pitch coming up.
A leader knows what it takes.
DJ Carrasco on the mound for the Mets, facing the Atlanta Braves today, and Martin Prado, who leads it off. Take a look at Carrasco and what he did last year with Pittsburgh, and then traded to the Diamondbacks, and almost takes off Prado's head, quickly falling behind 3-0. Signed to a 2-year deal with the Mets, Keith.
And he struggled this spring. His ERA at 9 coming in. This is his 4th appearance, first start. You always look at walks. Okay, 6 innings, 1 walk. Hits, too many, 9. He's a fastball, slider pitcher. No, fastball, sinker, slider pitcher, power pitcher.
3-1 to Prado, starting off the ball game, and he walks him. Not a good start for DJ Carrasco as Prado draws an opening walk. Check out the Atlanta Braves starting lineup for today, brought to you by Citi. And the top of this order looking like it could, with Prado, McLeod, and Hayward. That'll be the starting outfield for this Braves team. After that, a lot of key contributors, guys that'll be on this bench for the Braves team as well. And then Jurgens, who's a big factor in that rotation. Here is Nate McLeod, an interesting guy for the Braves, who's looked like he was on his way to stardom with Pittsburgh, and then really just fell off and didn't produce with the Braves. Was hurt. Well, see what he did last season. He gets shipped back and forth to the minors as well. Well, he's having a great spring. 367.
Well, he's a kid with a good eye at the plate, and he is leading second in on-base percentage in the major leagues, in the Grapefruit League and over in the Cactus League for the .528 on-base percentage with 8 walks. He is a guy that draws walks. He just didn't hit last year. It was just, you didn't know what was going on. They sent him down, and that was a big trade. And remember when that trade was made, we were in Pittsburgh at the time, and we said, what is Pittsburgh doing? They're unloading this kid. And lo and behold, he goes to Atlanta, and he just couldn't get started and track. Next thing you know, he's in the minor leagues.
He's a key part. Braves are counting on him to be their everyday center fielder. So the good spring is certainly a good sign for them. He's in an 0-2 hole here with Prado on first. Just started first inning, and the slider just missed. Carrasco is interesting. He'll work from all kinds of arm angles, Keith, and I asked him about it, and he said, you know, it's kind of whatever I feel. He'll even drop down sidearm, a little Terry Leach-like on occasion to right-handers.
It's a long line of Caribbean pitchers. Luis Tiant comes to mind that would throw from different angles. Oliver Perez, obviously. There's always been the Latin players. Joaquin Andujar, my old teammate, our ace and our pitching staff in the '82 Cardinals, would drop down.
Carrasco will mix it up. 2-2 on the way. Carrasco signed a 2-year, $2.5 million deal with the Mets, and 33 years old. It was one of the first moves that Sandy Alderson and company made, and they were just looking for a reliable arm in the bullpen. He's also been a starter in his career. He still hasn't been ruled out as a starter for this team, by the way. Terry Collins wanted to give him that chance, but it looks like Chris Young and Chris Capuano are going to be back into the rotation. McLouth takes it to Bay and left, and there's one down. Keith, you'll appreciate, too, if you notice Carrasco has the big-time stirrups. Those are legit. We'll talk after you take a look at the D.
And that D is brought to you by City, as you can see. One error in spring training so far. Duda was moved over to right field. And that's an insurance policy, and something we haven't touched on with Beltran getting a cortisone shot today. They're saying they're hoping they'll be ready for opening day, but they had to move Duda out in right field, who's never played right field. And so, you know, Duda, I love this comment. I'll play anywhere. I'll catch.
Yeah.
If I can get to the big leagues.
And so far he's done all right over there as Jason Hayward steps in, second in Rookie of the Year, balloting last year behind the Giants' Buster Posey.
And he's having a terrific spring, hitting over 400, 440 to be exact. And 5 walks. He's a guy that draws walks. Just an impressive young man. He had the bad wrist last year, the bad hand. He got injured and kind of slowed his season down in August. But boy, he had a terrific year.
This one tapped to second. Justin Turner will try and spit it. No chance on the return from Reyes. So Prado forced it second for the second out of the inning on the slow tapper from Hayward. Justin Turner got the late call to play second base today with the Mets release of Luis Castillo. That's eating the final year of that 4-year, $24 million deal. And their second base challenge, if you want to call it, is now down to 4 men. Turner in that group. Turner's come on at the plate here in the spring, so he's in that mix. David Ross now, the backup catcher, one of the leaders for this Braves club. Cleanup hitter for today's game as Carrasco watches Jason Hayward.
Looks like Ross has lost a little weight here. Looks really fit. Had a big game against the Mets in that 12-0 victory up in Orlando last time these two teams played. You know, and I think I'm sorry, Kev. It's important to know. We showed you Mr. R.A. Dickey out there pitching in the minor league game, and that decision was made because they didn't want, with the lack of teams on the East Coast, there's only 3 or 4 of them, and they're all in the Eastern Division. They don't want the Braves to get a look at R.A. Dickey, and so he's over there pitching in what you call a B game.
I mean, this is the 5th meeting with the Braves already. They're going to face them again tomorrow on a split squad. At the end of spring training, there's 2 games against the Marlins, and then you go to Florida and open the season with the Marlins. So you probably won't see a lot of the Mets starters in their top 5, on those fields. There goes Hayward as Ross hacks one foul. Do you think that's a factor? I mean, as a hitter, would that have helped you, in terms of if you're...
Sure.
It would have.
I never liked playing the American League in spring training. I always wanted to play the National League teams. And, some guys every year there's someone new on the staff, and you don't want to open the season up never facing the guy, whether he's a reliever or a starter. You want to get a feel for him, get a sense of what his stuff is. But you know what? In the long haul, you face him sooner or later, and you get used to him, and you categorize him and put him in the back of your filing cabinet in your brain. Well, today they have all the books and all the computer printouts. So you get used to them, but sure, you want to face them in spring.
And that's over Turner's head. Hayward stops at second, so the Braves have first and second with 2 down. That'll bring up the lefty slugger Eric Hinske now. Boy, Eric Hinske had some moment last year. He could have been a hero among heroes if the Braves were able to knock off the Giants in the NLDS, which was just a great series. Every game was a one-run game. And in that game 3, series tied at 1. Braves down 1-0. He comes in, pinch hits for Troy Glass. Sergio Romo delivers a 2-2 slider that he belts out of the park. Braves take the lead. Place is going crazy. And then the Braves gave it back. An error by Brooks Conrad,
who's playing second base today. That was a nightmare playoff series for Brooks Conrad.
He had 3 errors in that game, and he made the error that allowed the Giants to take the lead again, and the Braves ended up losing in 4. That was a series, and that's the way the Giants played every game last year, really, with that said. But that was a series. You look at that. I mean, who knows what could have changed in postseason history if the Braves won that game?
Well, there's RA right there, taking his warm-ups. That was a series with great pitching. I mean, the Braves had one of the best pitching staffs, so the Giants. It was very similar to '86, and I don't want to always return back to '86, but our pitching staff in '86 going against the Astros, you knew it was going to be a heck of a series. And when you have 2 teams with good pitching, anybody can win.
Pickoff play, and Hayward gets back in.
I always remember the '73 playoffs when the Mets beat the Reds for the National League flag, and the Reds were the big red machine, and you got Seaver, Kuzman, and Matlack. Guess what happened? The Reds went home.
It's funny when you line up those arms. 2-0 to Hinske now, trying to get the Braves on the board against Carrasco in the first. Carrasco struggled this spring. He's 1-1. Not that the record matters. His ERA is 9. He's gotten hit hard. It hasn't really been a walks issue. He's gotten hit pretty good. As Dan Worthen looks on.
Right,
2-1.
A little running fastball away, up in the strike zone, kind of just tails. Just beat him. And Hinske's a fastball hitter, but spring training hitters, sometimes this is the doldrum part of spring when you're an everyday player. You can't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
2-2, caught the corner, strike 3 calls. A DJ Carrasco allowed a couple base runners, gets out of the jam. Mets will come up when we come back. Jose Reyes leads it off for the Mets against 25-year-old Jair Jurgens for the Braves.
Well, Jurgens, you see, coming off his last start, 5 shutout innings against the Astros, and he is a Met killer. Had a tough year last year, Kev. A lot of injuries, never really got untracked. But he is the big guy they're counting on with this big 5-man rotation that is just as good as it gets.
Yeah, he is a stud. I mean, you look at what he's done already, and last year he had that left hamstring, and it bothered him for really a long time, and then finally a knee injury put him on the shelf. He just was never really right last year. Guy's got a ton of potential already, and just a key in this Braves pitching staff. Take a look at the Mets lineup presented by Citi. I mean, for all intents and purposes, with the exception of Mike Nikias, because Josh Tolle will be the starter, this could be the opening day lineup for the Mets. Beltran getting a cortisone shot today, and Reyes is thrown out, started off for New York, 1 down.
And the Geico Bravo defense, as you can see right there. The outfield, Prado moving out to left field. Who's missing in that lineup, of course, is Chipper Jones at third. He'll be the starting third baseman if he stays healthy. He's having a terrific spring, Chipper. But Prado in left field, a new spot for him.
Seems like he's the type of guy that can kind of put it anywhere. You know, he's a reliable type guy. Play second, play third when Chipper's out. Going to go to left, where he has played before, especially in winter ball, so that he's comfortable out there. Angel Pagan is the batter now, the everyday center fielder for the Mets against Jurgens. You know, talking about what Jurgens has already accomplished. Well, in 2009, he was third in the National League with a 2.60 ERA, also third in Rookie of the Year. Came on the scene in a big way after being traded over from the Tigers. Pagan fouls it straight back.
Angel having a good spring also, 313 this spring. And we're getting kind of to on the other backside, second half of spring now. So this is a hitter, Kev, right now. You sort of want to start feeling, if you haven't felt good at the plate, you want to start feeling a little better, and hopefully you turn it on the last week.
1-2 to Angel, and breaking balls upstairs. Yeah, when you say feeling better, what does that mean? Does that mean you're seeing the ball better? Does that mean you're just feeling mechanically better?
Well, it might be a little bit different with the players today because they hit year round. I never hit in the off season, never took BP, came cold to spring. So you'd be way behind, and it would take you a while to find your rhythm. And you'd always hope, now obviously when you're a veteran, you got the club made, you don't feel the pressure of having to hit to make the ball club. You always want around the last 10 to 12 days start getting fine-tuned.
Conrad with a nice diving play, and he finishes. Well, we talked about Brooks Conrad and the nightmare end of the season and the postseason. The Braves love his moxie. That's a great play to retire Pagan.
Well, that was just a nice little backhand, and the ball ripped right there. Pure reaction. You know, you're talking about the second baseman, the starting second baseman. You talk about nightmare series or games. Dan Uggla had just a nightmare all-star game before he made all those
3 errors in the all-star game.
Gosh,
that's rough. Uggla, of course, is a Brave now, not here today. Counted on to be a huge addition with that right-handed pop, something the Braves sorely needed, as David Wright takes outside from Jurgens. Mentioned Jurgens came over from the Tigers. He was acquired along with Gorkis Hernandez for Edgar Renteria. That was back in 07, and it looks like that was a pretty good trade for Atlanta. Brandon Hicks sends over, and a 1-2-3 inning for Jair Jurgens. We're scoreless.
Youth Baseball Gaming Foundation.
Work for DJ Carrasco. Mets and Braves are scoreless here at Digital Domain Park. Another gorgeous day on the east coast of Florida as Joe Mather, playing third base today, will make this Braves club as a reserve infielder. Takes that one high. Carrasco's walked one, allowed a hit in the first inning, got out of the jam though with a nice strikeout of Eric Hinsky, the left-hander. Carrasco had a real good year last year, and especially after he was traded to the Diamondbacks. Overall, 3-2 with a 3.68 ERA, a 1.3 WHIP, and when he got traded to Arizona in 18 games, he was better than that. He had 3.18 ERA. Guy that was a starter back in 05 with the Royals, made 20 starts that year. Still prefers to start, but part of the attraction to the Mets was his versatility. It's that need a spot starter, it could be him. You want a guy to work the 6th and 7th, it could be him. Right now with the Mets, there's so many options with the bullpen. You know, I mean, you could go down the list, as Ali will get a chance later today, with Manny Acosta or Pedro Beato or Jason Isringhausen or Blaine Boyer. They have so many good arms that have performed well that it's possible Carrasco could go initially, Keith, from a 6th, 7th inning guy to maybe being the long guy for this team. I mean, there's a lot of and again, that's what makes him so attractive, is the 2-2 sidearm delivery, and the slider got him. There's that drop down from Carrasco, second strikeout, and Mather is retired.
Well, right out of the book of Luis Tiant, and you take something off, and it's a big bender, and you get the hitter out in front. Tough pitch.
So back-to-back strikeouts for DJ Carrasco. And that'll bring up Brooks Conrad, who we talked about earlier, had that just nightmare game 3 of the NLCS and a rough stretch down the road defensively. But the thing about Conrad is, you know, he was pressed into service injuries to Chipper Jones and Martin Prado, and he also was super clutch for this team last year. He had 4 home runs in the 7th inning or later that won games for the Braves. Takes 2-0 here. We have a special guest in the booth as Mets General Manager Sandy Alderson has come up, spent a little time with us. Sandy, it's great to see you. Thanks for the time.
Nice to be back. Thanks.
Yeah, we last talked to you early in spring training. Here's a chance for Duda, right? And he puts away Conrad for the second out. Well, obviously a lot going on today with this Mets baseball team as we get ready for opening day. you were busy talking to us downstairs. And let's start with Castillo. You know, this has been a big competition at second base. Why now? Why the decision to let go of Luis and tend it down to 4?
Well, I think we needed to, at some point, make a decision that allowed us to devote more at-bats, plate appearances to the guys who remained in the competition. And I think that, you know, in Luis' case, he worked hard. I had a chance, of course, to see him play offensively, defensively. But we just felt, in terms of the organization overall, and even in Luis' case, that you know, this was the best thing for everybody. So we're down to 4, and see where it goes from here.
Sandy, will stick around if you would. We'll have more coming up with the Mets General Manager next. Ike Davis leads it off for the Mets here in the home second. No score. It's Jurgens against Carrasco on the mound. Ike's had a great spring. Takes low, ball one. Well, we had a little taste from Sandy Alderson, the Mets general manager, and he stays with us here in the booth. Part of the Xerox Business of Baseball. Xerox, ready for real business. So, Sandy, you explained the Castillo decision in terms of that and the thought process there. Now, how about moving forward with this second base competition? What are you seeing out of the guys who are left right now?
Well, nobody's really differentiated himself from the rest of the group, so we're going to try to focus down on a couple of players, give them more and more ABs, and see if we can't see something over the next 7 or 8 days that makes the decision for us.
Are you kind of tending to go, the old baseball adage, you got to be strong up the middle to win defensively? You look at the Met lineup, everybody plays up the potential. Do you feel that you have enough lineup, say, maybe to go with less offense in that position and focus on defense?
I'm not that comfortable with it. From my standpoint, I think that you try to get a little bit of offense at every position. And, of course, you're right. Strength up the middle is important. And, at the same time, we want a pretty well-balanced player there. So, I'm hoping that Emus, Turner, Chin-Lung Hu is, conceivable there. Hernandez, Murphy. We've still got a number of candidates, and I'm hoping that we can narrow it down even further really quickly.
As Bay is thrown out too quickly away against Jurgens here in the second. Well, when you're making these decisions, how do you weigh everything, Sandy? Obviously, this is such a unique group. You've got a Rule 5 guy. You've got a guy that's not on the 40-man right now in Luis Hernandez. You've got a guy with options in Justin Turner. How do you weigh all that and put percentages on that as you make a decision? Because, it's a long baseball season, and there's so much involved and in play there, right?
Yeah, I think somebody put it well yesterday. You're not putting a roster together for a playoff series. You're putting a roster together with the entire season in mind. So you do have to take into account, who's got options, who doesn't, who's on a minor league roster, who's at the major league level, and would have to go through waivers. There are a variety of things to make sure that you have the best possible player at each position, while at the same time ensuring that you have adequate insurance and backup at the minor league level. So the players understand how the system works and understand where they fit within all of those administrative rules. So that'll play into it.
Duda hits one sharply, but right at Brooks Conrad. Quick inning. Can we get one more half inning out of you, Sandy?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. We'll have more with Sandy Alderson. No score here from Digital Domain Park.
Single
At-Bat 11 for your iPhone, iPad, Android, or BlackBerry. Get spring training scores, stats, highlights, live audio, and more. Text at-bat to 31826 or visit Mets.com for all the details. As Jair Jurgens, the pitcher, leads it off for the Braves. Top three against DJ Carrasco, no score. As we've been joined by Mets General Manager Sandy Alderson. A couple of quick innings, Sandy. Let's move to Carlos Beltran. You announced today that he had a cortisone shot. This was after his BP activity, though. You know, what is the realistic chance about him being ready for opening day, and what do you think this cortisone shot does in helping that process along?
Well, the decision on the cortisone shot was made early in the morning, well before any of his morning activity. So it really didn't have anything to do with what happened.
Not like he got hurt in BP.
No, this was some lingering discomfort. The back of the knee, so they made an injection, injected that left knee, that non-surgical knee, and hopefully the pain will die down. In 24 hours he can get back to his activity. But obviously, you know, this is another bump in the road, and so we're going to have to manage the situation as we approach opening day.
You know, Duda's in right field today as Martin Prado takes strike one. Duda's in right field today. You know, do you view him as in this mix? I know you've got Hairston who's played very well, or do you see Duda as more of, if Carlos maybe would be out for a longer period of time, a guy that could come over as Reyes throws out Prado 2 down? How are you viewing Duda in this whole mix?
Well, I think first of all that, you know, Hairston and Harris provide us great backup over there, and Duda's in the mix, but as I said to somebody earlier today with regard to second base, you know, some are on the periphery of the mix and some are at the middle of that competition. So I'd say he's on the periphery right now, but he's swung the bat very well this spring, and obviously did at the end of last season as well.
The pitching staff, Sandy, just to change gears here, your bullpen, and we talked earlier about the left-handers and the break. You feel comfortable? I know you're going to have Capuano in the bullpen starting out the year. He's going to be thrown into the rotation. Do you feel comfortable just having one lefty out in the pen?
Well, ideally you'd like to have two, especially in our division when you know, the left-handers hitters we face both with this club, but particularly with Philadelphia. On the other hand, that's always the ideal, and there have been many occasions when I've been involved with the bullpen, didn't have any lefties. We certainly expect to have one. Two might be a luxury, but it will in part depend on how well ultimately the right-handers throw and how comfortable we are with them pitching, say in a 7, 8, 9 set rotation.
Sandy, you're the king of quick innings, but we appreciate the time and the insight as always, okay?
All right, guys, take care.
Sandy Alderson will be back. Mets and Braves. Best part about spring training, the backfield, and you never know who you're going to see. Today it's R.A. Dickey pitching to Josh Tolley in a minor league game. I think he gave up the base knock there. We talked about it, with all these games against the Braves and Nationals and the Marlins. Terry Collins and company don't necessarily want their starters to face those guys every time in the spring, so they're going to see a lot of that as we come down the stretch. Home third, meanwhile, we're scoreless in Port St. Lucie as Justin Turner off Jair Jurgens going to be fouled. Turner got the late call today for the start. Luis Castillo was penciled in the original starting lineup. We just had Sandy Alderson on with us. As he told you, the Mets waiving Castillo and his $6 million salary, and that opens the door now for 4 participants. And I think his answer was an interesting one, Keith, talking about the other factors here. Turner has options left, so you'd be hard pressed to think he's going to win this. He's a great insurance policy. He can play. You got Emas, the Rule 5 guy, who they obviously believed in enough to spend the $25,000 and draft him, which, that's a factor. And this one, Hayward giving chase. Nice catch, one down. Murphy, I think one way or the other, Daniel's going to be on the team. He can hit, and if he's not playing second base, he can be valuable, and I think he's going to be here. And then you have Luis Hernandez, who, again, isn't on the 40-man yet. So play all that together in your head, and that's what has to go into this decision when there hasn't been a guy that stood out, right?
Well, you don't want to be the guy with the options, and we're talking about Turner. You don't want to be the guy that's not on the 40-man roster. That's Luis Hernandez. So I think we're kind of narrowing it down to the guys on the roster. Emas, Murphy, and my feeling, what I'm getting, just my opinion, the vibe that I'm getting from Met management is that they're not comfortable defensively with Daniel Murphy at second base on an everyday basis. I mean, it's a tough position to play. It's a lot to ask from Daniel, who's never played much of second base, and he was out in left field, and that didn't work out, to say the least.
Mike Nikias to center, and Jair Jurgens keeps on cruising along. 8 Mets up, 8 retired, 2 down.
See what happens when pitchers throw strikes? Look at this. There's Jason. He's got a shot to make this ball play.
And he does. He's pitched well. Ronnie Paulino is here. It seems like we've talked a lot of the spring about him and his visa problems with the Dominican Republic. Well, he's here today. Has played a couple minor league games trying to get up to speed, and a big cut for strike one.
Well, Paulino's one of those guys last year with the Marlins that that was platooned until the other catcher went down. Baker, the left-hand hitter, went down. But he can hit lefties. Big kid. I saw him. I introduced myself to him today. I've been away for a week. And he's a big kid.
He's big. He's got a lot of power. And pitchers in Florida generally like throwing to him last year. The question for him is getting caught up with 2 weeks to go. Now the advantage as far as getting in a hitting shape, he's got that 8 games to serve from the PED suspension from last year. So he can be down here and take as many swings as you want. But Keith, I imagine a lot of work to come and catch all these new Met pitchers in 2 weeks, essentially, try to get used to them for the season starts. 1-2.
Well, Paulino's a guy that goes the other way. As you can see, the Braves outfield defense, they are really shading him. I shouldn't say shading. They're playing him to the opposite field. He likes that right center field gap. And you can see right there. I mean, look at the left fielder. That's way out there in the gap. And the center fielder way over. So they got him defended properly.
3-2 from Jurgens. Paulino hits it on the squares, but right at Martin Prado. So Jair Jurgens in a groove. He's retired all 9 Mets, the face of scoreless in Port St. Lucie. info and insight and exclusive behind-the-scenes video on Mets Blog, presented by Verizon, and it's featured on SNY.TV, your online home of all things New York sports. Jason Isringhausen, the 38-year-old in the game for the Mets, trying to make a ball club, Keith.
Well, 5 innings pitched. He's done a heck of a job thus far. The one run he gave up was a solo home run. Great breaking ball. And, of course, part of that big trio that came up, gosh, how long ago was that? For all you Met fans know.
Generation K, right?
Yep, always had great stuff. I mean, he, to me, had the best breaking ball of the crew, and it was just a matter of Jason getting mature, and he went off other places, and just had a very, very good major league career.
He's the one guy out of those three, with Paul Wilson and Bill Pulsford, that went on to really great things. I mean, he turned into a very good closer for the A's and Cardinals.
There they are. And, you know, Wilson just had a injury-riddled career. No one worked harder than him. It's such a shame.
As Hayward draws a walk, so the first batter Isringhausen faces, puts Jason Hayward on first base. Bring up David Ross. So DJ Carrasco started for the Mets his best outing of the spring. Went 3 innings, allowed 1 run, one walk, both in the first inning, and struck out 2. Retired the last 7 Braves to face him. So Carrasco's got to feel good about that production today. David Ross singled his first time up. Keith, what's the value? You know, obviously you have to produce, you have to pitch. But what's the value for the Mets of having a bullpen which could be filled with a lot of unknowns, to bringing a Jason Isringhausen up north, a guy that's done it in clutch late situations?
Well, it's not. You always like to have a veteran, particularly if you have a young staff. But this is a veteran pitching staff down there in that bullpen. There's not a whole lot of rookies down there, but I just think when you have 7 bullpen now, there's more spots out there in the bullpen than there were for benchmen, because there's less guys on the bench, obviously. But he's got a track record. He's been there, so you're going to give him a look. And it's not just the benefit of having him. There's the curveball right there. That's the vintage Isringhausen curve. So if he can still pitch, you're looking for someone to help your ball club. So you see Ollie right there. I really think that Ollie has a shot to make the club. I mean, they're going to pitch him and give him every opportunity. I mean, he'll just strictly be a specialist against a lefty, and he has to throw strikes.
I think it's pretty clear as Ross goes down on strikes. Isringhausen delivers the fastball, his first strikeout. Keith, I think it's pretty clear with Ollie, as we take a look at the pitch, that, you know, with the move from Castillo today, I think if Oliver didn't have a place on this team right this second, I don't think he'd be here. I mean, they proved that today with the release of Castillo. So
yes,
I'm not saying his chances of making the team are 90%. They're not. But I agree. I mean, I think if he's here and pitching, he's got a chance, and the Mets proved that today by getting rid of Castillo.
Well, you figure that the thinking is, and I would feel the same way, he topped out with 86 his last time out. That's still, you know, 9 miles less than what he used to throw at 95, and that's a big difference. He's just got to throw strikes, and, you know, he's an outside chance. And, you know, what hurts Ollie too is with Capiano starting out in the bullpen. And with all the off day, there's a wild pitch right there, and the breaking ball gets by Nikias. Capiano is going to be a perfect lefty early in the year. He'll be probably the long guy in the middle that can give you long innings, and they'll probably want to give him long innings of middle relief if a pitcher gets knocked out early, to keep his strength, his arm strength, because he's going to come in there once the off days are over, the latter part of April. He's going to be in the 5-man rotation.
Sure. So
you can't throw him an inning here for the month of April. You've got to stretch him out. So he's going to be the long guy.
1-1 to Eric Hinsky. There's a strike. So what you're saying is essentially, because the Mets won't need a fifth starter for a little bit, and that puts Capuano on the pen, is what you're saying is where normally Ollie maybe could make this team as a second lefty. Now he's got to beat out the Burdacks and the O'Connors of the world. Right?
And they like O'Connor evidently. Mike O'Connor has definitely raised some eyebrows here, and liked by the coaching staff.
O'Connor's been great this spring, unscored upon. Not pitching today or tomorrow, though. He went back-to-back days the last 2 days. There's still a lot of decisions to be made for this Mets team. They made one of them today, getting rid of Castillo. And it certainly appears that second base is headed in a certain direction. And I think if you just do the math, 1-2, and Hensey down on strikes on the wicket, breaking ball from Isringhausen.
No, this is a 12-6 curveball. We called when we were kids, we called a drop. And that's on the outside corner, and that is a beautiful pitch.
So 2 strikeouts for Isringhausen after issuing the walk to Hayward. That'll bring up Joe Mather now. He was a strikeout victim of DJ Carrasco his first time up. But anyway, we're talking to Sandy, and you do all the math, and with the options and who's on the roster and who's not on the roster, it certainly seems like Brad Amos is going to have a good chance to win the starting job. I mean, I think if the Mets went out and brought him here in the Rule 5 draft, and he's still here and still in the mix, I think he's going to get a good chance.
Well, like Sandy Alderson said, you look at Terry Collins, the new manager of the New York Mets. Sandy in commercial break, folks, was mentioning that, heck, it's about building options, and that means your farm system. So if Turner, I think Turner's going to go down, and he's got options, and it's always your odd man out when you have options. They can send you down. And Sandy said, hey, if Amos gets off to a slow start, and Turner's wearing it out in Buffalo, they can bring him up.
Hey, what happened at first base last year, right? I mean, Ike Davis had a great spring, got on everybody's radar, and the Mets went with Jacobs and Tatis. Month in, it was not working at all. They bring Ike up.
Right.
I mean, you have the option to do things like that. I think when you look at it, you get the over. It's so the story to who's breaking camp, who's going to be with the team opening day. But it's not always about who's with the team opening day. I mean, it's about who is a big contributor the whole season. So things are fluid. Meanwhile, Isringhausen trying to strike out the side. He's got 1 and 2 to Mather. And Joe stays alive.
And a lot of times, too, when you call a kid up, that's red hot. Because when you call up a kid from the AAA, from the minor leagues, he's obviously in a red hot streak. You might catch lightning in a bottle. And you got him in there, you put him in the lineup, and he just, boom, he stays hot. And he might be something that is a catalyst to your ball club.
But you asked a great question to Sandy about the defense. I think that gave you a real clue. And he said, look, I think we need offense there. I don't think you can go in a position. I don't think you can go many positions in the game without offense. And I think that gave you a pretty good look. To me, that told me that Luis Hernandez is not a serious candidate for the job, because he's the best defensive player right now left in the mix.
And I also think, with this Met pitching staff, I think it tells you that management feels they need to score runs.
No question. Well, and I think, too, Keith, with all the names that the Mets have on paper, their offense has a lot to prove. That's just the bottom line. Again, the 1-2 from Isringhausen, and again, it's fouled off. Mather in a battle with Izzy here.
There's Mike Pelfrey.
Pat Mish. Mish will start tomorrow at Atlanta, at the split squad in Orlando. Pelfrey started the other day in Fort Myers, so we won't see him.
Now they overnighted there, didn't they?
Yeah.
That's a long way over across the state to Fort Myers. Fort Myers, I tell you what, the Royals when I played, used to spring train at Fort Myers, and that was one trip in St. Pete you didn't want to make. I mean, it's so hot down there.
You know who does well spring training in Florida? Bussies.
Yes.
Bus drivers. They're always busy, right?
Yes, they are.
Long trips.
If you like to drive.
Mets have been sending a lot of their stars on the trips this year too, Keith. A little different from years past. Terry's made the guys take trips. Mather hit it hard, but right to Bay and left. Good inning for Jason Isringhausen. 2 strikeouts, still scoreless in Port St. Lucie. Jair Jurgens has been mowing through the Mets lineup as we go to the fourth inning, and this is a chance for Conrad. Goes off the back heel of the glove into center field. Reyes going to try for two, and Reyes is in there. Jose Reyes sprinting out of the gates.
Well, that's probably going to be ruled a base hit, the first Met base hit. And there's a clank right there, Conrad. That is not good hands. That you got to make that play.
Oh, they score an error.
And they scored an error. Jose busting down the line, and good hustle here. That's a two-base error.
Tough error though. That wasn't a gimme, especially with Reyes running. But for Conrad, it's always going to be a factor. We told you about his moxie and his offense, what he did off the bench for this team. But we told you about the playoffs. Well, he also made 8 errors the final 9 games of the regular season for the Braves. That was probably a tough score. Bottom line, Mets finally have a base runner. They had went 3 innings without touching Jair Jurgens. And so now the Mets trying to break the scoreless game here in the fourth with Angel Pagan. Grounded out to second, his first time up. Switch hitter takes strike 1. Keith, you know what's been nice about this spring? You know, obviously the Mets have had so many questions answered, and they're still in the process of answering them. Well, has it been nice for Jose Reyes just to go along and not have a major story about him? He's just gone along. He's looked good. He's been healthy. He's been running like we just saw him run. That's a positive for this Mets team for sure.
Well, he's injury free, and he says he feels great, so that's the most important thing. And he's just taking he's just going through, getting himself ready for the season. You don't need to waste any hits down here, waste any, in Jose's case, waste any stolen bases. And he's a key to this ball club. Come on, I mean, whenever we do ad nauseum, we show the stat, Kev. When Jose gets on base, and the percentage of the games the Mets win, and he's just the top of the lineup. They need him on the base, having a Jose Reyes type of season. He's just that important to this offense. Plus, he gives you great defense.
He's on base now with an 0-2 count to Pagan against Jurgens. And Pagan has himself a base hit. See if Chip Hale sends Reyes. He won't. Pagan's going to try to go to second. Now they've got a rundown situation. They're coming home. So is Reyes, and he's out at home. Head first slide into the play for Jose Reyes and a David Ross. And he's nailed at the plate.
Well, bad base running initiated this whole disaster here. Was Pagan going to second base. It's a one-run ball game. It's clear that the ball is not going to be overthrown on the cutoff man. Now Reyes tries to score here. Okay, that's fine. It's a judgment play. But this should never have happened. It's Pagan's poor judgment here on going to second base. You got to find out. Read the throw. He could have gone back to first, but there's no one behind him. But it's easier said than done up here. You know, we got the whole overview here, but he should have just taken the wide turn.
A 7-6-4-2 on the put out to Reyes at home. A 1 away, and Pagan essentially replaces Reyes at second. That'll bring up David Wright. 5 for 26. No home runs this spring. Keith, I talked to Dave Hudgens, the new hitting coach for the Mets, on Wright, and he spent a lot of time watching film for all the new Mets this offseason when he got hired. As breaking ball cut on and missed. Here's Jose.
Oh, he didn't hesitate right there. He knows it's a base hit. Picks up his coach. You can't fault him for that. You just want to make sure if you're going to do that, you don't want to run your ball club out of an inning. You like aggressive errors, and that was an aggressive error.
Well, Pagan was going to be out at second, so Reyes just figured take a shot.
Go on with your point there about Wright.
So Hudgens, said, look, everybody's different. Generally, look, I'd love for guys to be consistent and have the same mechanics, same everything. He said, I've had guys like, for example, Eric Chavez in Oakland who tinkered a lot, and it worked for them. He said, but I'll tell you this, watching tape of David, and we've talked about it, I just saw too many things. Like every tape I popped in, there was something different going on. And he said, to me, that's something that's got to change.
Well, Bernie Carbo was one guy that had different stance every day.
Well, he did say, that's what he said. He said, I'm not trying to say that that's the solution.
But I agree with him. And my point is, you want to be consistent with what you have. I don't believe in making. There you see David right there, Hutchins, the new hitting coach for the Mets. To me, stick with one approach at the plate, the mechanical approach at the plate. You start, okay, I'm going to move away, I'm going to lower my hands, and that's just, come on. It's just too much. It's overloaded. You swing the way you feel comfortable, and just make your adjustments when you're hitting off a pitcher. If he's getting you out inside, then you look inside. If he's got a good sinker that day and you want to move up in the plate, then move up in the plate. But don't change your swing.
Here's Wright taking Jurgens up the middle. Pagan's going to round third. And he'll come in and score. It's an RBI single for David Wright. And the Mets get on the board 1-0.
Well, David's third RBI of the spring. This is the ball away. This is that part of the plate that gave David trouble last year. And that ball kind of came back a little bit over the outer half. A little bit on the end of the bat. But we saw all last year, Kev, was David having problems with the outside corner, particularly off the right-handers.
And why do you think that was?
Well, who knows? Unconsciously, the beaning he received against the Giants and Matt Cain, it may have been in the back of his mind. I don't know. But it's spring right now. Everybody's trying to find their stroke. David is not having a good spring. Now, I'm not worried about that. He's coming to the game hitting 200. So you don't know, how comfortable he feels at the plate. But I just got to believe for David to get back on the groove is that he's going to have to go where his strength was coming up, and that was to right center field. And that means getting that ball away. He would drive that ball. He swung and missed at it a lot, and that was what was alarming about David last year. The strikeouts that followed that. Obviously, if you can't hit the outside pitch, your strikeouts are going to increase, and they did a lot of breaking balls away. The right-handers on him. So what I'm going to watch early is how he swings against the tough breaking ball from the right-hander, and see if he's pulling off like he did last year, or he's staying in and driving it to right center field. To heck with the Mo zone out there. It is what it is. If you hit line drives, to me, it's a big ballpark. There's lots of gaps out there, lots of doubles and lots of triples.
Here's the thing. Hudgens said, and again, he said, look, I'm not saying that everybody should be the same. I don't believe in that at all. But for him, for David, that's the way I felt. And I guess the question, Keith, is this. Is like Davis bats now and fouls that one off 0-2 against Jurgens. If you are a hitter that does tinker a lot, and even if you're a successful hitter that tinkers a lot and it works for you, do you get to the point where you forget where home base is? I mean, do you get to the point where you actually forget where your initial stance and mechanics are? Is that a factor?
Well, I have a hard. I can't answer that question because I worked on my swing as it was, and I held my hands where I held them. I never tried to lower them or raise them up higher or put them further away from my body or in close to my body. I never put my feet further apart in my stance. I didn't open my stance. I stayed the way I always hit my whole life, and that's what I focused on in BP, is honing that down. It's just like I said earlier, if you're going to do this one week and that another week, how are you going to be consistent?
Here's a guy that's had a consistent spring, that's for sure. Ike Davis coming in, hitting .321, leading the team with 9 RBIs. Finds himself in an 0-2 hole against Jurgens here in the home fourth.
Well, they see Ike. They're kind of playing him. Look at the left fielder in the gap. They're playing him pretty, a little bit to pull, and I agree. Ike does not hit a lot of balls down the left field line. He's a gap hitter to left center field. He's a gap-to-gap hitter, and he'll pull a little more. So I always felt outfield defense, unless you've got a dead pull hitter up, the ball down the line is going to be a double anyway. So most balls are hit into the center of the field. Take the gaps away from hitters. Unless, of course, you got Dave Kingman up, then you want to play Kingman for the pull. But, you know, if you play a guy like Kingman for the pull, well, let's just be more current. Let's say Barry Bonds, who became a dead pull hitter. You just give Barry Bonds a left field line. Move the left fielder way over into the gap in left center. Move your center fielder way over to the gap in the pull, right center field, and then you can play your right fielder, pretty much where Hayward is right now. You know, straight up. But like I said, balls down the line are doubles. You see right there, there's a slight shade to pull here in center field.
Right off first, 0-2 to Ike. Right at Conrad, and Wright gets back at first. Well, Monday at 1 p.m., let's welcome these same Atlanta Braves back to Port St. Lucie. Anybody else to play? It's another spring training matchup. They continue their Grapefruit League schedule at Digital Domain Park. Mets Braves presented by Citi. It's Monday at 1, only here on SNY. Jason Bay will be the batter now. Bay 0 for 1, got off to a real good start this spring. Struggling a little bit with the strikeouts, 11 Ks and 30 at-bats so far. Keith, I know you talked about Wright and Reyes and say, you know, hey, don't care about numbers. Does a strikeout number, does a number like that concern you in spring, or still with a veteran like Bay, not at all?
It's a concern because of the way he struck out last year and he struggled. It is a concern, absolutely. And if you recall last year, Howard Johnson was the hitting coach, and even Jerry Manuel, they said that it's hard to figure out Bay because he's such an unorthodox hitter and an unorthodox stance and approach. But he did strike out a lot. He did not have a good year, and I thought he handled it well the first half of the year. And then they gave him the day off, a couple days off before the All-Star break last year. And to rest his mind, I thought he'd maybe come back after the All-Star break and, you know, get a couple of hits and turn it on. And it didn't happen. And I'll say one thing for Jason is he ran everything out. He hustled all year, and he had a tough year, let me tell you. And I did sense that when he came out of the All-Star break, after 2 weeks, it was going the same way for him. It started to get to him, and it did get to anybody.
How could it not? New team trying to impress. Let me ask you this: for Bay's own psyche, forget about the Mets. Does he need to hit a couple home runs here the last couple weeks of spring?
No,
he doesn't.
I think he needs to get some line drives. It's a big park at Citi Field. I know everybody's in love with the home run today's game, but you know what? You just can't beat your head against a wall. Pretty soon you just got to maybe get wise, shorten up, and hit some doubles. And you know what? You hit home runs when you're not even trying. If he gets one, he's going to hit it out the ballpark.
1-2. There goes Wright. Bay back up the middle. He's got a base hit. Wright's going to keep on going to third. Jason Bay right back through the middle. The Mets have runners in the corners with 2 down.
Let's take a look here. Wright on his horse, looks back. Looks like a hanging breaking ball to Bay. Just out of the reach of Conrad. Nice effort. Mets turn on a little offense here. 3 hits in this inning.
Well, you look at Jair Jurgens for the Braves, who cruised through the first 3 innings. He's gone 5 innings. He did that his last time out. So pitch count wise, he should be totally fine. Just the Mets starting to get some better swings against him. And here is Lucas Duda with an RBI opportunity outside for ball 1. Duda 0 for 1. Coming in batting .273 and 44 at bats. Showed some power, 4 doubles, 2 home runs. And, you know, we asked Sandy Alderson when he was here about Duda, and I think gave the impression, which we kind of thought, that if the Beltran thing lasts for a while, then this guy could be a factor. But I think, Keith, initially, if Beltran does miss opening day, I think, you know, Scott Hairston would be the guy. But Duda could be a fast riser here. I mean, the organization really likes what they have in Lucas Duda.
Well, you know, Willie Harris is going to be the super sub. He brings you speed and defense. My feeling is Duda's still young, and you make a decision. You're going to bring him up. He's not going to play every day. Do you want this player to be down in AAA, getting more seasoned, playing every day, not worrying about going 0 for 4?
And learning right field.
Yes, exactly. And you got 2 veterans. I've always felt the toughest job in baseball is the bench job. And it's always the best bench players were the veterans because they can handle it better as opposed to a younger kid.
He's in a 1-2 hole here, though, with runners at the corners. Duda lays off. I mean, hey, look, for Duda to come up last year and to mentally survive going 1 for 31 to start his major league career, I think that says a lot about the kid, right?
I remember that. I mean, it was just, I was panicked. My heart was pouring out to him. It was just it's the one thing you don't want. But you know what? He turned it around. And he's got some pop. He takes his cuts up there.
The initial plan was to have Duda play first base in AAA, but I got to think that changes now, and that he would be in right field. It'll be a 2-2. Frankie Rodriguez warming. He's had just a great spring. And we'll see him next. Carrasco went 3, Isringhausen 1. Shutout for the Mets. Again, the 2-2. Breaking ball got him. Duda fans and the threat. Mets score a run on the Wright RBI single, though they lead it 1-0. Youth Baseball Leagues with the SNY Play Ball Award presented by Sports Authority, offering $5,000 grants to 6 in-need organizations. That to be used for new equipment, uniforms, or field improvements. For more information and details on how to apply, visit sny.tv or any local Sports Authority location. Frankie Rodriguez in the pitch for the Mets, and he faces Brooks Conrad to start it off here in the 5th inning. Conrad first pitch swinging, first pitch hitting. He's got himself a leadoff single against Frankie.
Well, I tell you, as a hitter, you see Frankie's spring numbers. He's healthy. Thumb is fine. His breaking ball's been outstanding. We know he's got the great changeup. Throws hard. He's the closer.
Bring up Brandon Hicks. Grounded out to David Wright at third, his first time up. Now Rodriguez has been phenomenal so far, as a matter of fact. 5 2/3 innings. Coming in, allowed the 2 hits, 6 strikeouts. And he told me last week, he said, you know, my body just feels great. He only pitched 1 time in winter ball some concern coming in about the thumb, which required surgery after the whole incident that happened at Citi Field with the assault on his girlfriend's father. And, you know, say this, Francisco Rodriguez, in the process, part of this whole process, taking anger management classes, he does seem like a different guy. I mean, he does. But one thing he said, Keith, when he first addressed the media when he came down to spring training, he said, look, you know, I'm undergoing this process to learn and be different and have, you know, change. That's what I'm doing. That's what I want to do. But I'm not going to change on the field. The same arrogance, the same cockiness on the field is going to remain. There's a breaking ball outside.
Which, you know, it doesn't bode well to opposing teams. But then again, yeah, who am I to say that? Look at our 86 team. We upset a lot of people with some of our stuff, and you know, we backed it up, but we certainly supplied a lot of wood for that fire around the league.
Just going to push Duda back and right a couple steps. He makes the play. Brandon Hicks retired, and there's one out. Hey, there's Wright working in the minor league game on the backfields today against the Cardinals. I think it's the Cardinals AAA team. Josh Choley catching Dickey today. Here's Jair Jurgen, who'll remain in the ball game at the top of the fifth, squaring the bunt, takes outside. So if you just tuned in, the big news of the day is the Mets with Luis Castillo. They gave him his walking papers today. He's no longer a Met. Second base competition down to 4. And a couple things. First of all, Miami Herald is reporting that there have been some early discussions on if Castillo could return to Florida. Good butt attempt by Jurgens. Conrad goes to second, 2 down. And I think the situation there would be if their young stud Matt Dominguez does not make the team at third, they move Infante to third. I think Dominguez is going to make the team. Here's the other thing about Castillo, and Met fans can see this coming a mile away. Chase Utley is banged up for the Phillies. He's not going to be back anytime soon with patellar tendonitis. I could see easily Castillo landing in Philly. Couldn't you, Keith?
Absolutely. It would be, Phillies can certainly do that. Give them some of the top of the lineup too. The Phillies got some issues. I mean, Jimmy Rollins, this guy's got. It's very important that Rollins brings his level of play back up that he's had the last 2 years ago, 3 years ago when he hit the 30 home runs. The Phillies don't need 30 home runs out of him. They need Jimmy Rollins to get on base.
They also need him to stay healthy.
Yes, and if Rollins doesn't perform up to capabilities, you got Utley. Utley is their third hitter, and they're a really professional hitter in that lineup. You know, they're going to be hurting, but they got that big rotation. There's Booth Bunzer.
Meanwhile, with 2 down, Frankie's gone 2-0 to Martin Prado. Braves looking to tie this game up. There's a fastball strike. Think about the Phillies. They've kind of, in a way, I mean, not totally. Obviously, they have some big-time offensive players, but, you know, because of the injuries and the departures, I mean, right now with Utley out and Worth gone and question marks around Rollins, you know, the pitching is now become a sure thing for them, and they have a lot of questions on offense at this particular moment.
Well, I liked the young little outfielder, the left-hand hitter. I forget his name.
Dominic Brown?
Yes, I liked him. He didn't hit last year. I liked his swing, and he's hurt.
He's got a broken hand. He's going to be out a month and a half, if not 2.
Yep.
Phillies they're nicked up here starting the season. Rodriguez on a 2-2, a little low. Martin Prado slated to be the everyday left fielder for the Braves. Versatile guy who was an all-star for the first time in his young career last year. How about this? Last 2 years, each of the last 2 years, he's hit .307, and he's hit a combined 78 doubles. This guy can hit. Payoff pitch on the way. Breaking ball, got him. Oh, that has been working all spring long for Francisco Rodriguez. He whiffs Prado to end the threat. R.A. Dickey trying to do the same on the backfield. He does. In the fifth, hits one well to left, but not well enough. Prado puts it away, and there's one down as Jair Jurgens works his fifth inning for the Braves.
Time of the spring training now, where the pitcher starts stretching it out. Jurgens, his last outing against the Houston Astros, through 5 scoreless. He's probably going to go 6 today. I'm sure he's on a pitch count, but he's just been cruising right along. The only real bump on the road he hit was in the 4th inning, and that was started with a two-base error by Brooks Conrad. And there's Ollie and Boof Bunzer.
You just like saying Boof, don't you?
Sounds like it's a carnival name, doesn't it?
You know, he officially changed his name to Boof back in 2000.
That's right. I forgot the reason, Cal.
There was none. His mom gave him the nickname. He just kind of liked it. It stuck, and away we go as Mike Nikias takes a strike. With Bonzer, they show him warming up. Mets made some moves today, by the way. Besides Castillo, they trimmed their roster down to 37. They sent some players down to minor league camp. There's the list. Dylan G. I'm not really surprised at this point. I mean, Young and Capuano are going to fill out the rotation, and I'm sure G will be used at some point. And the rest of the list there, Tankersley and Igarashi. Doesn't mean those guys can't perform here the rest of spring training on this field. It just means that they are essentially eliminated from the opening day roster. That's what you're looking at.
That means you're going to Buffalo or other areas.
And Bonzer is a guy. I think initially the intent when they signed Bonzer was to be a guy they have in AAA as good insurance if somebody gets hurt to bring up, and he's performed well. By the way, the roster is at 36 now, not 37. After the Castillo move, it puts it at 36. Should correct myself. Mike Nikias down on strikes. Now there's 2 away. Second strikeout for Jurgens as he tries to complete the 5th.
For the Mets, number 28, Daniel Murphy.
A chance to see Daniel Murphy at the plate here. Pinch hitting for the pitcher. Murphy's had a good spring, second on the team in RBIs. Had some good at bats, still in the mix of that race at second base. Takes a good old country hack and sends this one into the stands. Murphy's also played, though, this spring third. He's played first. Just testing out the versatility. I think regardless, he's going to make the team, whether it's as the starting second baseman or more likely the utility infielder. And as Keith said earlier, he had a knack for being a good pinch hitter late in games.
Well, Daniel, for all the kids out there that are watching the ball game and you want to be a major league player, this is no criticism of Daniel. We know that Daniel can hit, but if Daniel had a position, he'd be an everyday player.
Yeah.
And the fact that you got to work on both sides of the field, you young kids out there, your offense and your defense.
Ali Perez, will we see him next? Mets lead at 1-0. Ringo will break down the brackets for the NCAA tournament. Plus, bring you exclusive Mets player coach interviews. That's Daily News Live. Weekdays at 5 on SNY. Oliver Perez in the pitch for the Mets. Facing Nate McLeod. This is the third relief appearance for Perez. And Keith, he's dropped down almost exclusively from his sidearm position now since they assigned him in this bullpen role.
Well, you know, he's Ifali and the outside chance that he makes this ball club. He's going to be strictly used against a left-hander. And I've always never liked really having specialists, even though you can get away with it more in today's game with 12 pitchers and you have 7 out in the bullpen. But, you know, back in the day when it was 10 pitchers, 5 starters, and 5 relievers, you really couldn't have a specialist. There wasn't enough pitchers in that bullpen. And you see the miles per hour, which is always the concern. Where has that 9 miles per hour gone? All he's 28 years old. It should not have disappeared.
He's got a 3-1 and 8 McLeod. And McLeod hits this one high in the air, deep right field. Duda back, and Lucas Duda making the play.
Nicely done. In a sun field too. Late afternoon here. The sun is a factor. You see a shadow. Nicely done, Mr. Duda. Got his glasses on.
Well played by Lucas Duda. A well hit by McLeod, but he's retired. Bring up Jason Hayward. That's a pretty good test for Oliver Perez, especially considering Hayward's patient eyes. He has a walk already today. Keith, how many young hitters do you remember coming up like Hayward that had the type of patience? Even early in the year last year, he just never seemed in a rush.
Well, you see them sometimes, but they're never a power hitter. He's a big kid right here that hits for power. It's usually the guy that's a Pete Rose type of hitter, a Luis Castillo type hitter that have, when they're young, they have that kind of patience. But with Hayward, you can see the on-base percentage right there, 4th in the National League. For a power hitter that can run and drive the ball, it's you don't see it too often. A big kid, strong. He put on around they said around 8 pounds, close to 10 pounds, and it's all muscle.
1-2 to him here, behind in the count to Perez. Goes around. Sidearm delivery from Perez gets Hayward, and there's 2 down.
Well, you get ahead in the count, you don't have to throw a strike. When you drop down, there's the slider. I don't think he swung, but it doesn't matter what I think. The umpire thought he did.
And now will be a righty, David Ross. He's got a single in this game. You know, we know that Perez has lost velocity, and we've talked about it and we've seen it. Does it matter as much if he's called upon to get 2 outs against 2 lefties? The fact that his fastball would sit maybe at 86 or 87, is it the same? Can he get away with that? I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, he's got to have movement. It's got to be throwing sidearm, and it's going to sink in on the hands of a left-hand hitter. And I never liked that hard sinker from a left-hander, which then sets up the breaking ball away. And you notice here against the right-hander, Perez is not dropping down. You don't want to do that. That's a huge mistake because everything flattens out. You get nailed. He's throwing more over the top here, and he's having trouble throwing the strikes. Again, see, he's throwing better strikes by down sidearm than he is upstairs.
Yeah, it seems he's got better control sidearm, and he's got the good slider still from the sidearm position. Now 3-0 to the righty Ross, and it wasn't even close. What a difference.
So in a close game, are you going to leave Oliver in to pitch to a right-hand batter? I don't think you
can't.
No, I don't think you are.
At least at this current juncture you can. But then the flip side of that, is he going to get a chance to do enough here with that lefty sidearm delivery to show you that he can be called upon to get Jason Hayward out in the 8th inning of a game in Atlanta in a key spot? I mean, there's so many big left-handed batters in the NL East. It's almost a must to have a lefty specialist. I know Sandy said before, you get if a righty pitches well to lefties, but I think the competition warrants you have a lefty specialist in this division.
You're looking at a team right here in the Braves. It's a left-handed overload. Their hitters are predominantly lefty, and that's the key to getting Ugla for the Braves. Dan Ugla, the second baseman, So gave him a right-hand power hitter in there, because you don't know how long is Chipper going to get hurt again. His career, his last 3 years, he's been full of injuries.
Pops him up.
Wow.
And Perez takes care of it. Well, Perez did the job against lefties and then spikes the ball. Mets lead the Braves 1-0 here in Port St. Lucie. Another fantastic day. David Wright with an RBI single off of this man, Jair Jurgens, who's looked terrific today. Coming back from a season marred with injury, but only 25 years old. He's got a world of talent. You see, he's just a strike throwing machine. He's got 51 out of 70 today. Top of the order for the Mets, it's Jose Reyes, who reached on an error, was thrown out at home plate his last time up.
I love these guys that talk on the cell phone and wave to the camera. Look at that guy. Go sit down. You're blocking view.
All right, Dickey's still out there on the backfields and on the hands. Can we call play-by-play of 2 games at once? Hicks in the left makes the catch, and Reyes is retired. We got a different angle on Dickey that time. You know, we had the catcher's angle before. Now we have the center field camera on Dickey. How did he pull that off? He must have a really good director.
Yeah, I think.
There's Dickey. Keith, you want to analyze who's up for the Cardinals?
Okay. Whatever
you were really willing to go.
A horse with no name.
I'll tell you, you're impressive. You were really ready to go the extra mile there. One down for Angel Pagan now against Jurgens, who singled. Took a bad turn at first base and ended up getting Reyes thrown out at home plate. Ended up scoring, though, on David Wright's RBI single. It's the only one of the game. Just 5 hits total in the game so far. Jurgens now has the longest spring outing for him. His last time out he went 5. This is now 5 1/3. .75 pitches for Jurgens. I'd imagine at this point he's probably somewhere around 80-85. Breaking ball's a little low. Freddie Gonzalez, Keith, his first year replacing a legend.
Well, he was with Bobby Cox, and when he took the job, he left the Braves, and they wanted him back, and they got him. He's got a really good coaching staff lined up behind him, too. He brought Carlos Tosca with him, who is his bench coach. He brought him with him from Florida. Roger McDowell, of course, the pitching coach, who's been outstanding for the Braves. Larry Parrish, the old third baseman for the Montreal Expos.
Yeah.
Hitting coach.
New hitting coach this year. Chance at second for Conrad, and he can't make the play.
Jeez, Brooks. Wow. This is just no underhand. You got a fast runner. Throw it.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's got to be the second error on Conrad, I'd imagine, in the game.
No question.
Got to make that play. Zobagad on first. He's a stolen base threat at 37 of them last year.
So we do a hit and run here.
That is an error on Conrad. How much do you try things like that and plays like that in spring, Keith? When it hit and runs and just trying to do things like that. How much of that for a manager as much as a player are a factor when you're just kind of working through things here in the spring?
Well, you don't want to do it early in spring. You want to let your hitters take their swings, and you don't want to force them to have to cover for a runner. And there's Wilkin Ramirez out in right field that replaced Jason Hayward. You want your hitters to get their groove, and there's communication. There's the old sprints after a game. I remember those.
Wright, deep to left field. Goodbye. 2-run home run, David Wright, and the Mets have a 3-0 lead. His first home run of the spring.
That is always nice to see. It's a big key to this ball club, and it's the fastball meant to be away right down the pipe, and David just makes him pay. Very nice.
First home run of the spring from David Wright, a majestic shot to left center, gives the Mets a 3-0 lead. Ike Davis bats now 0 for 2. Isn't it too many 0 fors this spring?
Been getting him out. Jurgens has a very good changeup. He's had Ike off balance, although out in front the whole game here.
Goes the other way and deep, but foul. Keith, Ike last year against lefties actually hit pretty well against lefties. Maybe the inside pitch gave him some problems, and the outside pitch last year gave Wright problems.
Well, this one you can see the catcher Ross set up away. You see him bring his glove back towards the middle. That means it was right down Broadway. Full extension of the arms from David. That's a mistake right there, and you always want to jump on mistakes.
Oh, 0-2 to Davis. And jammed him, but he gets it back up the middle for a base hit. 1-out single for Ike Davis as Jairo Asensio warms up in the Atlanta pen.
Left fielder, Jason A.
Let's see how long Freddie Gonzalez goes with Jair Jurgens here. Showed you his pitch count before. Probably getting right about that point now. He figured about 85 pitches today. This is the longest outing of the spring. It's Jason Bay, the batter. Bay 1 for 2 with a single.
There's Raj. Mr. McDowell.
6th year already as Braves pitching coach.
How about that?
Felt like he just got hired in some ways.
It does, doesn't it? He's got some problems with his knees, and Roger was always one of those guys that always loved to shag in BP, and he played center field and shag, and he always was trying to catch everything, and he's having a hard time getting around. Though he got the shaky knees. We're all getting old.
Jurgen missing with the fastball to Bay. So David Wright has all 3 Mets RBIs today, and an RBI single in the 4th and a 2-run home run off Jurgens here in the 6th. Bay to short. Hicks, Conrad turning the 6-4-3 double play, but the Mets get a deuce on the 2-run bomb from David Wright. It's the Mets in front by 3. testing out the wind, replacing Jason Bay in left. I liked how he described himself. He called himself the defensive closer early in spring. Booth Bonser's in there. He's pitched well, despite the fact that today he was sent to minor league camp. He'll start the year at AAA, Keith.
You see his numbers so far this spring. 6 innings pitched. And Joe Mather having a tough spring, 129. You don't want to be hitting 129 when you're trying to make a ball club as a utility player.
Claimed by the Braves off waivers from the Cardinals in the offseason.
There's Johnny Venters, Kev, and that kid. Really, what a rookie season he had last year. He of the hard sinker.
Venters is flat out filthy. And the first time the Braves were in, Billy Wagner was telling me about Venters. You got to watch this kid. He wasn't kidding. He would be a huge part of that Braves bullpen this year. 8th inning, maybe some closing duties as well. Angel Pagan puts away Mather. One down for Booth Bonser. So Bonser will start the year at AAA, and he'll be a good insurance policy for the Mets. I mean, think about what he's coming back from. You know, last year tried to make his way back. And I mean, Keith, this is a guy that in 09 had not only torn labrum but rotator cuff surgery in the same procedure. I mean, that is a massive combination. And he says he just feels like a new man this year. And last year trying to work his way back. Says his shoulder feels great. Feels like he's actually able to pitch normally. You can imagine that's one big time surgery to recover from. And some success with the Twins as he deals to Brooks Conrad, who's made 2 more errors today in the field, although to his defense one of them was kind of questionable. Could have been scored a Jose Reyes hit. Conrad takes the 0-2 deep to left, but that's going to go out of play. On the way, a little upstairs. You know, Keith, just tragedy for the Braves a couple weeks ago on March 9th when what will be one of their minor league coaches, Luis Salazar, former big leaguer, was hit in the eye on a foul ball by Brian McCann, and Bonser gets the strikeout. Brooks Conrad sent packing, and there's 2 down.
Fastball in.
And Salazar hit in the face by McCann's line drive, and he just underwent his 3rd operation on his face, and he ended up losing his left eye because of the procedure. He said he was just happy to be alive. As Reyes tries to make the long throw, not in time. Brandon Hicks beats out an infield single. But Salazar underwent the procedure, lost his left eye, is otherwise said to be, you know, doing pretty well. I mean, the Braves expect him back. The Braves expect him to manage in the minor league system this year. He was standing up on the dugout over the railing when McCann hit. McCann, it was a terrific guy. Actually went and spent a couple hours with Salazar the other night, just kind of, you know, probably clearing the air, clearing his soul. I'm sure he feels awful about that. But you know, we've sent our wishes to Salazar throughout the spring, and it's good to hear that at least he's on the road to recovery after, you know, unfortunate situation. And Keith, you know, from Brian McCann's point though, how much does that weigh on you as a hitter? I mean, you know, he's up at plate, hits a line drive, certainly not his fault, but he ends up unfortunately off his bat. I mean, one of his coaches loses an eyeball. Thankfully, it could have been worse, but I mean, does that weigh on you? Is that something you'll think about when you're at the plate?
No, you can't. You can't let anything get in the way. It's unfortunate. You feel awful, but you know it's in the Lord's hands where that ball goes. You know, and you got to keep an eye on the ball on a flying bat, and You know, I'm always more surprised that those broken bats that go into the stands don't hit more people. And, you know, it's amazing how they can get out of the way. But no, you've got to move on. And gosh, you feel awful, but you know, you realize that it's something that it was not intentional. So you just, life goes on.
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate.
Freddie Freeman, young, will be a rookie, young slugger this year. He will be the first baseman for this Braves team. But here he goes to chasing. Bullpen with 2 strikeouts in the inning. Mets continue to lead it 3-2. Mets Baseball on SOI is brought to you by Citi, by North Shore LIJ, Hope Lives Here, and by Toyota. What do so many car companies compare themselves to Toyota? Come see for yourself at your local Toyota dealer today. Inside Keith Hernandez, I'm Kevin Burkhardt. Glad to have you along as the Mets lead the Braves 3-0. Lucas due to the batter against shiny veteran, great young arms in baseball.
Look at the numbers from last year. 83 innings, strikeouts, doesn't walk people, deadly against left-handers, hard sinker, throws in the 90s, mid-90s. Just basically unique.
Inside to do it now 3-0. This guy was just lights out last year. Gets that single up to 96. It was a 30th round draft pick at Indian River Community College, which is just down the coast here in Florida. 3-0 on the way. And that's actually
Second baseman, Justin Turner.
Strikeout ratio in his pitch. He struggled in spring, Kimbrough, and there was a little bit of concern, but he's come on a little strong of late, and in the perfect world, that would be when they set up now to get the left-hand out, and Kimbrough moves back home with a blazing fastball.
still Keith, it is a question of
next also. Takashi Saito.
The batter, no one out against Johnny Venters. Hit a roadblock for the first time all spring. It's such a seamless spring training. There's a strike to Nikias, who's 0 for 2 today. And Keith, when you look at this Atlanta Braves team, they 91 and 71 last year. We talked about the NLDS where every game was a 1-1 game. It was a terrific series against the Giants. Could have gone either way. At this team, and incredibly unusually so, Philly's getting all the accolades for their rotation. I think the Braves rotation almost amazingly extreme. When you look at what happens, Hudson was unbelievable last year coming back from Tommy John. Slow start, but was dynamic in September and in the postseason for them. Jurgen certainly looks sharp today, and then Hansen. Zach Minor, the lefty, is the leader for that fifth spot right now. He's a young, good-looking thrower, and again a lefty, which the Braves would like to have in the rotation. But what are your thoughts about this rotation, how it stacks up against especially the rest of the NL East?
I think it's as good as it gets. I would give an edge to the Phillies, but you got to love Hudson and Jurgens and the veteran Lowe. Hansen was a hard-luck pitcher last year. He didn't get a lot of support. And he's young and still getting better. So I think Minor, you talk about Minor having the edge, is Minor. There's no lefty in that rotation. So Minor gives them the one left-hander. I think that's what gives him the one up on the competition to be the fifth man in the rotation for this Brave ball club. But let me tell you, it stands up. I mean, what hurt the Braves down the stretch run was that Tim Hudson was in the running for, I thought, for Cy Young. And he just did not have a good September. He puts everything on every pitch. He's not a big guy. Maybe he wore down in the latter part. It wore down in September.
He hit a little bit of a wall in September. Lowe picked it up in September. Some injuries to deal with last year, Liam, and they brought up Brandon Beachy, who's also in the mix for the fifth starter, and with 9 strikeouts in a 5-inning debut against the Nationals. I mean, it seems like, they have in their history the last 20 years, but it seems like the Braves just pull hard-throwing guys up for the minors every other day.
The Braves have always drafted well. They've always had a good farm system, and they like to draft out of Georgia. They like their local kids.
3-2 from Venters, and Nikias down swinging. Venters
is having a hard time throwing strikes. That was ball 4. He was everybody out.
Talk about that fifth starter spot. The fifth starter last year was Chris Medlin. He blew out his elbow against the Mets in that one game in Atlanta. They love him, as a matter of fact. But he probably won't be back till later this summer. Well, he just threw off a mound recently. As Nikias hits it good. And goes down the lead, make the catch. First out of the inning.
Flushes this ball. I got a knuckleball. This ball just died. Nice recovery. Well, that's one thing.
Willie Harris.
first at-bat of the game. Came in for a defensive replacement for Jason Bay last night. He's a good spring. You see the numbers for him. Got an RBI opportunity on the pond now. First and second for the Mets in the 7th against Venters, who's having trouble finding the strike zone. All 3 runs for the Mets driven in from David Wright. An RBI single and then a 2-run home run off Jair Jurgens. That's been it.
Pinch hit here, Duty, huh? I mean, during the season, it wouldn't be Willie Harris off the bench pinch hitting against a guy like Venters, a right-hander up there. This shows me that Terry Collins wants to see Harris against a left-hander. Just, it's not going to be wed to him, just particularly with Beltran now, with the injection and the cortisone injection in his knee. Can Harris play against left-handers? This is where you find out right here in the spring.
It's a 1-2.
He is struggling.
Never saw him like this last year.
No, he's up with his pitches too. When it's a hard sinker ball pitcher like him, when they're upstairs.
Lays off. Harris mentioned to me early in spring, he said, I hit 10 home runs last year. And he said, I've got to get out of that though. I mean, I started swinging up last year and trying for home runs. I don't know if it was just being around Adam Dunn rubbed off on me. He said, but I've got to get out of that. I got to go back to swinging line drives. There, though, he's going out on strikes. Venters nabbed the corner. Harris sets to the bench 2 now.
Shortstop, Jose Wright.
Hit you 5 home runs on the season, you're happy with that as a bench player, pinch hitter. His job is to hit line drives, get on base.
Tapping for Rice. Hicks and the Mets fail to score. First 2 on, they don't score. Still in front of the Braves.
Welcome back to Geico Radio.
Experience the grace.
Tickets start at just $10. Visit Mets.com. Call 718-507-TIXX. Get your tickets. Operators are standing by. Some changes for the Mets now. Nick Evans comes in to replace Ike Davis at first base. Chin-Lung Hu takes over for Reyes at short. Russ Adams, the new third baseman for David Wright, who had a nice day at the plate. Jason Pridey, and the ever-growing beard, out in in center as Angel Pagan comes out. Now Bullpen remains on the mound for his second inning of work. And the first pitch to Martin Prado. To right for Luke Castuda. One pitch right away here in the eighth. McLeod now coming in batting .367. 0 for 3 today, though. Take a look. We talked about Eventers and Kimbrel connection for the back end of that bullpen. Craig Kimbrel warming up. So we'll see their lefty and righty flank pro. Venters was clearly off today. Mets couldn't get a run across, though. Still needed 3-0. Against Bonder. 2-0. Tim Burdack warming up. Keith, how's your bracket looking?
I didn't get involved this year.
You might be the only person in America, really.
I just didn't. I don't watch the hoops like I used to, and I do watch the tournament, of course. So
no big news coming out of it today, thus far.
I did win my pool in football this year.
I didn't ask you about that. Blues going back, and Willie Harris is going to call him off, make the catch, and there's 2 down. Keith, here we are. We're kind of, you're close enough to opening day where you can almost smell it, but we're still 2 weeks away. Like Pelfrey said something interesting the other day. He's like, the adrenaline is definitely different in spring. Is there a point where you kind of turn the corner and can sense opening day and you start to get your juices flowing a little bit as a player?
It's not right now. I'll tell you that. But down there on the field and up here in the booth, this is the doldrum part of spring training when you're.
That got saved by the net.
This is the tough part of spring right now, and usually when you got a week left, you start getting out of the double digits. You get by day 10, and it's 9, and you got it down to a single digit. That's when it's the countdown, and you start kind of. This is when I'm starting to want to find my swing, to take it right into the season. In a perfect world, and as each day gets checked off, you get more excited. I mean, opening day is always fun.
Wilkin Ramirez, short one. Hopper played nicely by Justin Turner. Good outing for Booth Bonzo. He's through 2. Take a look at our director, Bill Webb's boats. Just came from there to direct the game, going back out right after this on the Intercoastal, Keith. Did you ever get a ride on that thing?
No, we're not on the Mississippi. That's for sure. There's Bill. I thought he was supposed to be in the truck.
It's very good. He's got remote directing capabilities. Craig Kimbrell on for the Braves, who is projected to be their closer this year. Again, Freddie Gonzalez hasn't named it officially. Kind of said initially Kimbrell and Venters co-closers. But he's got 4 consecutive scoreless innings now. Has started to pitch much better after a rocky start to the spring. Came on and out of nowhere last year and showed what he could do. Throws absolute gas.
Well, his minor league totals, and he's rookie. He started a professional career in 2008. Up in the big leagues, of course, last year, 2010. So 2 years in the minors, basically 2.5 years in the minors. 242 strikeouts in 151 innings. So, and he's off to a hot start. His last year, of course, an ERA below 1 in 21 games, 40 strikeouts in 20 2/3 innings.
That's unbelievable.
That's impressive. You can see his fastball is electric.
He is average in his pro career. He was drafted in 08. So last 3 years at all levels, I'm talking rookie ball, the major leagues, he's averaged 15 strikeouts per 9 innings, as evidenced by the numbers Keith just gave you. Jason Pridey in a 1-2 hole. It does not go around. As we play here in the 8th, Mets lead at 3-0. David Wright, all 3 RBIs on an RBI single and a 2-run home run, his first of the spring. Hinsky takes care of that. Pridey retired, and there's 1 down here in the 8th. Tonight at 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. get continued coverage of today's Mets Braves spring training game. All the news, of course, with Castillo and Beltran, plus interviews, highlights, and recaps of everything New York sports on Geico Sports Night. It's tonight at 10 p.m. and 1A only on SNY. Fortunately, there'll be no more St. John's coverage, as they were lambasted pretty good by Gonzaga last night.
That was never a game, was it?
No, it really wasn't. Gonzaga's good, by the way.
They're disciplined. They're well coached.
St. John's did themselves a service this year, though. They put themselves back on the map. That's what they did. They just ran into a real good team last night.
Yes.
That's the bottom line. Russ Adams, his first at bat of the game since coming in for Wright. Here's the tournament picks. David Wright at St. John's. It's not going to work out for him. Pelfrey, of course, the Wichita native, has Kansas. Staying in state there. Neese, the Ohio native, has Ohio State. You're getting a theme here.
David picked St. John's to win the whole thing?
Yeah.
We have to have a talk with him.
You're saying there's a little bias to New York? Well, he would have picked Virginia Tech, Keith, but they were slighted from the tournament in his belief. Russ Adams hits this one deep to center. McLeod racing back, and he can't get it over his head. One hops over the wall. Ground rule double for Russ Adams.
Well, nicely done there off a flamethrower. That'll impress people.
First baseman, Nick Evans.
By the way, I said Nate McLeod. That's actually Corey Harelchak, who came in this inning as a defensive replacement.
Looks like him, doesn't he? Same type of body type.
I thought body type it was him. Especially the way he went back on that ball, but I was fooled. Easy to do, by the way.
Don't feel bad.
Okay. Spring training for all of us, you know. Nick Evans with a 1-0 count against Craig Kimbrell here in the 8th. Mets looking for some insurance. Look out. Backs Evans off the plate.
Oh boy. I'll get your attention.
Hear that glove pop up here. Nick is trying to make a ball club. He's out of options. So if he doesn't make the team, he'll he could conceivably still be with the Mets. I mean, if he doesn't make the team, he'll be put on waivers, and if he passes through, the Mets could reclaim him and send him down to the minor leagues. But you never know how these things work out. Got a 2-2, and he is blown away by Kimbrel's high fastball. 2 down.
Pitching for the Mets, number 62, Dusty Ryan.
So here's the catcher, Dusty Ryan, getting a pinch hitting opportunity. He was one of the cuts sent to minor league camp today. Mets reducing their roster to 36. Big story, they cut Luis Castillo and his $6 million remaining at second base. So Castillo is gone. Other big story today, Carlos Beltran, cortisone injection in his left knee. That's not the knee he had surgery on last year. It's the knee that's given him tendonitis problems since he got here. Sandy Alderson on with us said it's still remotely possible he could be ready for opening day, but that looks kind of bleak. But they're hoping the cortisone shot helps with the tendonitis and gets him back on the field.
You just don't like to see that this late in spring. 2 weeks away. It's still okay. He can start. You get it if the knee improves with the cortisone shot. You can get him ready. But if it keeps hampering him here another 4, 5, 6 days, he may not be ready for opening day.
Breaking ball for strike 2. How much do you think he has to play right field before the regular season starts? I mean, he's played 3 games in right his entire major league career.
I think he's a natural. He'll be fine. I'm not worried about his glove at all.
So if he's all right, you could throw him out there opening day?
Yep. Okay. I'm not worried. Least bit worried about Carlos defensively.
Well, that gives, I think, more hope then, if that's the case. And Ryan goes down swinging on another fastball from Kimbrel. 2 strikeouts for Kimbrel. Mets will try to close out the Braves when we come back. Back here in Port St. Lucie, top 9, Mets lead 3-0 over the Braves. On the minor league backfields today, R.A. Dickey pitched, and he had a great time against the Cardinals minor leaguers. They have 11 hits. Hard to judge without seeing it or knowing what he was trying to do over there. Keith, when you're in Dickey's stage, you know, and you're for the first time in your career actually able to be comfortable in spring training because you have the contract, you know, are you alarmed at all when you go and face minor leaguers and have a day like that? Are you bothered by it at this point in spring training?
No, I don't think so. It's the equivalent for me would be going to face a minor league pitcher and either going 0 for 4 and striking out twice.
Hard to get up for that.
No, I think it's the adrenaline's not there, but you're there to get your work in.
Sure.
So, and it's usually the pitchers that go over there and will play in those minor league games to get their work, because there's not enough innings in spring training. It's all you play the 28 games or whatever in spring training, not for the everyday player. You play it for the pitchers to get ready. So they need to get the innings in to get themselves ready for the season. I always felt around 20 games was enough for me. I was ready.
Tim Burdack working the ninth for the Mets, trying to close out the Braves. Mets have held Atlanta to just 3 hits today. Collective effort from DJ Carrasco, Jason Isringhausen, Frankie Rodriguez, Oliver Perez. Boof Bonds are 2 good innings. And now Tim Burdack, as the count is full to David Ross leading off the ninth. Burdack's had a good spring. 4 1/3, allowed 1 hit, no runs.
Former Astro,
yeah,
left-handed specialist.
Ross 1 for 2 with a walk. Be the Braves' backup catcher this year, as he has been, backing up Brian McCann. And the thing is with that is, Ross might get to play a little bit more. The Braves could never afford to get McCann out of the lineup because they didn't have anybody else to produce. Well, now with the addition of Uggla, Hayward, second year, Freeman, maybe McCann gets to have a little bit more of rest earlier in the season. Here's Who.
Oh,
nice bounce.
Nice scoop.
Nick Evans makes the play. 1 down.
Not an easy scoop right here. It's the in-between hop. Always the most difficult scoop. Nicely done from the floor up. Nicely done, Mr. Evans.
Eric Kinski, a couple of strikeouts today.
He looks like a wrestler, doesn't he? Like you wouldn't want to get in a wrestling match with him.
He is a big man. I would agree on that assessment. That's going to fall in front of Lucas Duda. 1 out single for Eric Kinski. With all the things about the Braves, Nate McLeod, will he rebound? How do you replace Billy Wagner and Saito? And it looks like they have the guys in place to do that. Hayward and Freddie Freeman, what will their production be? How will Uggla fit in here? I think for Atlanta, Keith, tell me if you agree, even at this stage at age 38, as Tyler Pasternicki on a pinch run, I think it still comes back in a very big way to Chipper Jones and his health.
Yep. I think that Uggla could be their cleanup hitter. Chipper could be their 3rd hitter. Chipper could be their cleanup hitter also. Uggla's not a 3rd hitter. So are they going to let Hayward hit 3rd this year? Maybe he's up to it. If he is, then it makes that lineup so much stronger, so much deeper. Then you can put Chipper behind him, a switch hitter, to protect him from both sides of the plate. Then come with Uggla.
Nice throw by Who. The return in time. That's a 6-4-3 double play. And the Mets get the victory. Good day for the Mets here at Digital Domain Park. Pitching staff holds Atlanta to 4 hits. They get the first spring home run from David Wright. And they get the victory, 3-0 over their division rivals today.
And it was a David Wright day offensively. He drove in all 3 runs, went 2 for 3, base hit up the middle to drive in the first run, and then the 2-run shot, a bomb, in left center field to make it 3-0. And the final score right there is 3-0 Metsies.
Mets get the win. We'll come back and talk about it from Port St. Lucie after this.